Okay, good morning. It is Tuesday, May the 19th, and today we're going to begin Henry V, Act 2. Get that off the screen, and that can remind me later. So, as always, because I think that this is crucial, I go to the stream, and I remind you that at the top of the stream is the one-on-one conferencing schedule. And, I already have it open. Boom. You need to sign up during one of the times when I am free. Do not sign up where something is already identified, obviously. But there are a lot of times free this week. And Friday, which I thought they were going to let be a normal school day, is not a normal school day. Not there is such a thing as a normal school day anymore, but I try to retain as much normalcy with these morning meets as possible. So Friday, sign up in any one of these slots. And always I decided I'm going to leave 2 to 3 as anyone can pop in extra help. So please sign up for one-on-one conferencing. It's akin to being a university and going to meet your professor. So we're moving on now to Act 2 of Henry V. And here's the document. Did I make a copy for everybody? I bet you I didn't. I'm going to have to do this all over again. My apologies. This will just take 1 second. But there's no point having it if you actually can't use it. There we go. Due date for this will be Friday. We will read through the play today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. And Act 2 will be due on Friday. Okay, so did I make a copy? No, is this the one you want to open? So get into Henry V, Act 2. I'll go back and clean up my stream later. You don't need to watch me do that. All right. So from Act 1, we saw that the church wanted to convince the king not to pass a specific bill, because that bill would take land and money for the church and give it all to the king. The church, of course, doesn't want to lose any land or money. It wants to acquire more land and money, just like the king wants to acquire more land and money. So Canterbury and Ely, archbishop and bishop, scheme to divert the king's attentions from the bill to something they believe would be more profitable for the king, so ultimately more profitable for them. That is to encourage him to make war with France and take back the crown of France. So he would become then the King of England and the King of France. A double scepter, I think that's what they call it. So they've got their staff with one ball. He's the king of one country. A staff with two balls. He's the king of two countries. They do win him over to a certain extent, but the thing that tips him would be the Dauphin sending him tennis balls as a mock, a jest, basically laughing at him, because when the king was a young man, he still is young, but before he was crowned king, he was a feckless youth, a good-for-nothing waste of skin who spent all his time in taverns, the Shakespearean name for bars, hanging out with the lowest life out there, and earned a very nasty reputation. So, to put it bluntly, the Dauphin pisses Henry V off, and he agrees to fight for his title and take this mock and shove it in the Dauphin's face. That's pretty much where we left at the end of Act 1. Good morning, Mr. Hagen. So, who all is here today? Antonov, Hagen, Mallowan, and Croak. I'm going to take a picture of my attendance for now. If I need to add anyone later, I will. So, what important political plot does the chorus reveal to the audience? Who is involved and what is the intent? According to the chorus, the setting changes. Where is the audience to transport their minds via imagination? Remember, last week the chorus was created in order to evoke audience imagination, in order to help Shakespeare present a piece of such vast girth that it is impossible to portray on a simple stage. So, the chorus. Now all the youth of England are on fire, and silken dalliance in the wardrobe lies. Now thrive the armorers, and honor's thought reigns solely in the breast of every man. They sell the pasture now to buy the horse, following the mirror of all Christian kings with winged heels and as English Mercuries. For now sits expectation in the air, and hides a sword from hilts unto the point, with crowns imperial, crowns and cornets promised to Harry and his followers. The French, advised by good intelligence of this most dreadful preparation, shake in fear, and with pale policy seek to divert the English purposes. O England, model to thy inward greatness, like little body with a mighty heart, what mightest thou do that honor would thee do, were all thy children kind and natural? But see thy fault. France hath in thee found out a nest of hollow bosoms, which she fills with treacherous crowns, and 3 corrupted men, one Richard Earl of Cambridge, and the second Henry Lord Scroop of Masham, and the third Sir Thomas Grey, Knight of Northumberland, have, for the guilt of France, oh guilt indeed, confirmed conspiracy with fearful France, and by their hands this grace of kings must die, if hell and treason hold their promises, ere he take ship for France, and in Southampton linger your patience on, and will digest the abuse of distance, force a play. The sum is paid, the traitors are agreed, the king is set from London, and the scene is now transported, gentles, to Southampton. There is the playhouse now, there must you sit, and thence to France shall we convey you safe, and bring you back, charming the narrow seas, to give you gentle pass. For if we may, we'll not offend one stomach with our play, but till the king come forth, and not till then, unto Southampton do we shift our scene. So I'm going to take this size down, hopefully enough to be able to, well, nope. We'll just have to deal with the fact that the screen is too big for its britches. So let's pull open the chat and let's go with, these questions are backwards. This should be number 1 and this should be number 2. Nope, this is number 1. This is correct. This is not backwards. So let's look at the first question. What important plot does the course reveal to the audience? Who is involved and what is the intent? So let's go back to chorus. I could have asked a question for these first 10-ish lines. Note here, these lines identify who is plotting against the king and why. These lines identify who is being brought to follow through with the plot against the king and what treacherous act they agree to commit. So, on the screen we have the key passages that help you, that will answer this question, from where you get your answer. Actually, I want to leave that up so that you can. These lines identify who is plotting against the king. These lines identify who is being brought to follow through, who is being bought to follow through with the plot against the king, and what treacherous act they agreed to commit. The king will be killed by traitors. Good. Who is hiring the traitors? And who are the traitors? So who's hiring the traitors and who are the traitors? Who's hiring them is here, and who they are is in here. France is hiring it, and they are the 3 corrupted men, Richard, Lord Scroop, and Thomas Gray. Very good, Mr. Antonoff. All right, let's go to our second question. The setting changes. Where are we going at this stage? get our response can be found in line 30 and 35. Southampton. Why? That. For protection. I can see why you would say for protection because of this plot that's brewing. Why else? Let's hear from one of the other. Let's hear from Mr. Hagen. Why do you think the king is going to Southampton as opposed to straight off to France? Why do you think the king is going to Southampton? Mr. Crook came up with a good reason. His prediction can be cited back to the chorus because since a plot is brewing against the king, there's the possibility that he might need protection. Why else might he be going to Southampton? Mr. Mallallewelyn, Mr. Croak, Mr. Hagen. Let's give Mr. Andonov a break. Why else might he head to Southampton? Now here, we convey you safe. The course is talking to the audience, not to the king, just in case that's where you got protection from. Well, let's throw this back into the 15 or 1400s or whenever this was set, not set in modern day, and think in terms of how long it would take one to travel from London, England, to France. We can get there by traveling to the airport and into an airplane and flying off. So the first destination becomes the airport. Southampton would be as far as perhaps he can travel in one day before then making it over the channel to France. This is my prediction. Based on travel restriction. And giving the king time to unearth the traitors prior to heading for France. Yes, Mr. Andonov, it's the closest seaport to France. Your answer is much more succinct. Alrighty. Scene 1. Identify the dramatic purposes served by this scene and support your response. What is the argument between Pistol and Nym? How is that settled? Consider Shakespeare's use of language in this scene. Most characters speak in blank verse while Pistol speaks in poetic verse. And why do you suppose Shakespeare does this? Bear in mind that Pistol is, all of these characters are from the tavern. They are the individuals who used to party with the prince, so they are the low lives he used to associate with. And in this section, they will speak of Falstaff and the role he played in terms of, his friendship with the prince and how the prince, having banished him from his sight, the effect that that has on him. So this is much funnier when heard by the actors who read the parts, but I do not pretend to be able to do the base British accent. Enter Corporal Nym and Lieutenant Bardolph. Bardolph, the audience will well remember as one of the friends of Henry V. He takes a slightly more dominant role in this play, partially because Shakespeare kills off Falstaff. Yes, spoiler alert, but Shakespeare had to have Falstaff die, and better for him to die of a broken heart, or having basically consumed himself to death, than to have him be put to death by the king for what would be inevitably an illegal act on the battlefield. Well met, Corporal Nym. Good morrow, Lieutenant Bardolph. What, are ancient Pistol and you friends yet? For my part, I care not. I say little. But when time shall serve, there shall be smiles. But that shall be as it may. I dare not fight, but I will wink and hold out mine iron. It is a simple one. But what though? It will toast cheese, and it will injure cold, as another man's sword will, and there's an end. I will bestow a breakfast to make you friends, and we'll be all three sworn brothers to France. Let it be so, good Corporal Nym. Faith, I will live so long as I may, that's the certain of it, and when I cannot live any longer, I will do as I may. That is my rest. That is the rendezvous of it. It is certain, Corporal, that he is married to Nell Quickly, and certainly she did you wrong, for you were troth plight to her. I cannot tell. Things may be as they may. Men may sleep, and they may have their throats about them at that time, and some say knives have edges. It may be as it may. Though Patience be a tired mare, yet she will plod. There must be conclusions. Well, I cannot tell. Enter Pistol and Hostess. Here comes ancient Pistol and his wife. Good Corporal, be patient here. How now, mine host Pistol? Base tyke, callest thou me host? Now by this hand I swear I scorn the term, nor shall my Nell keep lodgers. No, by my troth, not long, for we cannot lodge and board 12 or 14 gentlewomen that live honestly by the prick of their needles, but it will be thought we keep a body house straight. Nym and Pistol draw. Oh, well, lack-a-day, lady, if he not be hewn now, we shall see wilful adultery and murder committed. Good Lieutenant, good Corporal, offer nothing here. Pish, pish for thee, Iceland dog, thou pricky-eared cur of Iceland. Good Corporal Nym, show thy valor and put up your sword. Will you shut off? I would have you Solus. Solus? Egregious dog, O viper vile, thou solest is thy most marvellous face. The solest is thy teeth, and in thy throat, and in thy hateful lungs, yea, in thy maw purdy, and which is worse, within thy nasty mouth. I do retort, the solest in thy bowels, for I can take, and pistol's cock is up, and flashing fire will follow. I am not Barbazon. You cannot conjure me. I have in humour to knock you indifferently well. If you grow foul with me, Pistol, I will scour you with my rapier, as I may, in fair terms. If you would walk off, I would prick your guts a little in good terms, as I may, and that's the humour of it. Oh, braggart, vile and damned, furious wight, the grave doth gape, and doting death is near. Therefore, exhale. Hear me what I say. He that strikes the first stroke, I'll run him up to the hilts, as I am a soldier. An oath of mickle might and fury shall abate. Give me thy fist, the 4 foot to me give. The spirits are most tall. I will cut thy throat one time or other in fair terms. That is the humour of it. Couple a gorge, that is the word. I defy thee again, O hound of Crete. Thinkest thou my spouse to get? No, to the spittle go, and from the powdering tub of infamy fetch forth the laser kite of Cressid's kind. Dull Tearsheet, she by name, and her a spouse I have, and I will hold the quondam quickly, for the only she and Possa, there's enough. Go to. Enter the boy. Mine host, Pistol, you must come to my master and your hostess. He is very sick and would to bed. Good Bardolph, put thy face between his sheets and do the office of a warming pan. Faith, he is very ill. Away, you rogue. By my troth, he'll yield the crow a pudding one of these days. The king hath killed his heart. Good husband, come home presently. Exit hostess and boy. Come. I make you 2 friends? Shall I make you 2 friends? We must to France together. Why the devil should we keep knives to cut one another's throats? Let floods o'erswell and friends for food howl on. You'll pay me the 8 shillings I won of you at betting? Base is the slave that pays. That now I will have. That's the humour of it. As manhood shall compound, push home. They draw. By this sword, he that makes the first thrust, I'll kill him. By this sword I will. Sword is an oath, and oaths must have their course. Corporal Nym, and thou wilt be friends. Be friends, and thou wilt not. Why then be enemies with me too. Prithee, put up. A noble shalt thou have, and present pay, and liquor likewise will I give to thee, and friendship shall combine, and brotherhood. I'll live by Nym, and Nym shall live by me. Is not this just? For shall I subtler be? Unto the camp, and profits will occur. Give me thy hand. I shall have my noble in cash, most justly paid. Well then, that's the honour of it. Enter hostess. As ever you come of woman, coming quickly to Sir John. Ah, poor heart, he is so shaked of a burning quotidian territon that it is most lamentable to behold. Sweet men, come to him. The king hath run bad humours on the night. That's the even of it. Nym, thou hast spoke the right. His heart is fracted and corroborate. The king is a good king, but it must be as it may. He passes some humours and careers. Let us condole the night. For lambkins we will live. Exit. So let us go back to our first of, I believe, 3 questions. The flip up to the top to our questions. The dramatic purpose served by this scene. So what reason does Shakespeare have to insert this scene? Oops. So what are the dramatic purposes served by this scene? Someone's joined us. Let's say hello to Mr. Casaniabo, whose name I need to add to this. So while I'm doing that, you guys think of your response. For this question. What's the purpose? Why is he inserting this scene at this time? What purpose does that serve? Now, one of the dramatic purposes would have been a term you learned in Romeo and Juliet and a term you learned in Macbeth. In Romeo and Juliet, it was after Juliet's death when the musicians and the servant Peter had a little fight. In Macbeth, there's only one scene that serves this dramatic purpose, and that is with the drunk porter. Who remembers what this dramatic purpose is? Hey, Simon, are you making yourself a coffee? What? Are you making yourself a coffee? Would you make me one? I have my dog mug here. I'm just going to deliver my coffee mug to my husband as I await your response. Dramatic purposes. Why is this scene being presented at this time in the play? Don't be shy, folks. Just a regular with a little coconut cream. Thank you. That first morning. Okay, so there are a few reasons he inserts this scene. I'll give you the first 2 letters of the one I was talking about as a bit of a hint, because we learned this one in Romeo and Juliet. I would hope you learned it in Romeo and Juliet when Peter and the musicians were arguing. This was after Juliet's death because the scene was very dark and oppressive. And a dark oppressiveness needs to be lightened somehow. Comic relief. Very good, Mr. Casaniabo. The humor is found in the answer to question number 2. But there's another reason for this scene. What other reason might Shakespeare for adding this scene? Think of a reason. This is the boring part of the video for those of you who are watching, when, of course, they are watching. What is it a reminder of? That's one of the purposes. What is it meant to take us back to? Keep in mind, this is the third play in a trilogy. Just as the first play in a trilogy sets up the second play, just as the second play reminds us of the events in the first play and sets up the third play, what must the third play do? No, as this is the last of 3 plays. Is reminds us of the previous plays. In this case, 3 characters from Henry IV, parts 1 and 2, are present or talked about. Who are these 3? Actually, 4, but you wouldn't know. Pistol is one of them. Nim, no. Nim is not one of the 3. We did not meet him. You wouldn't have known that Pistol is from Henry IV, Part 2. But you should know, based on all of the information and what we have read, you should know who these other 3 characters are. Thank you, sweetheart. Hello, my love. Hello, my baby girl. Go see Daddy. Go on. Good girl. What that does is that leaves you the other 3 characters. because we've canceled out Pistol and we've canceled out Nim. Now there are only 3 other characters who are mentioned. Who are they? See if I can find a page that has all 3 names on it. There we go. Of course, you'd have to remember the name, but all 3 names are on this page. And one of them is very important that we be reminded of. So we've canceled out Pistol and Nim, even though Pistol was in fact one of the characters from Henry IV Act 2. Based on all of the previous information I've given you, you would not have known that. We canceled out Nim solely on the fact that your teacher does not recall in all of her numerous readings of Henry IV Parts 1 and 2 any character by the name of Nim. And if you can prove me wrong, kudos. That'd be an awful lot of work to go through to prove me wrong, though. Which is why I would be so damn impressed if you did prove me wrong. Come on, other 3 names. 2 names are given. 1 is alluded to. My master. You must come to my master. He is very sick. Who is he? And then you have 2 names of characters. Bardolph is definitely one of them. Bardolph was one of King Henry's bar buddies. God, I love that phrase. Back when he was the feckless prince. What a great expression. Now I want to write a book called The Feckless Prince. And I may just do so later on down the road. Make a sequel to Hellhounds of High School. Arr, arr, arr. Who else? We got Bardolph. Another name. Let's see if I can get all the names. Yeah. Here we go. We don't have Bardolph anymore, but we don't need it. Who was Sir John? He always went by his last name. And of course, he was reminding us of him. There you have your last 2 characters. Ah, crap. I noticed boo-boos here. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to fix it. The English teacher in motion. Rather minor mistakes, but they're still mistakes nonetheless, and they count against you in any written assignment. So, who are the other 2 people? And you will get your answer in the first, right there, and everything I've just bolded out. What is our answer? Who are the other 2 people? Come on. Mr. Malalualan. Who are the other two characters? These are characters from the prequels. And by using very specific characters from the prequel, Shakespeare brings us back to that time. We've got Bardolph already. Who else? I assume you meant Bardolph when you said Barbizon. Okay, I'm going to have to... Oh, no, it says I'm not Barbizon, so I thought it was recurring to... Okay, I am not Barbizon. Where is that? I am not Barbizon. What line? Because that... I would like to explain what that actually means. Oh, you have the book. That sounds like it might be in the fight between... Okay, so who is saying this? And to whom is it being said? Because now I want to know where that is so that I can make sure it is clear that that is not a name so much as it is a reference to something. I wonder if I can find it. Aha, find and replace. There we go. I am not Barbizon. Okay, excellent. You cannot conjure me. So here, what I need to do is look up. I love Google. It's as the name of a fiend. Barbizon is also referred to as the name of a theme. Okay, so pragmatic dictionary. Let's go in here. Oh, crap. I hate when it's this one. As the name of a fiend. So, you cannot conjure me. He says, I am not a fiend. You cannot control me by hurling big words at me. So I don't know if I can actually copy that properly, but I can put the... Oh, what a horrible long link. Problem with this is that it's an ebook, so I can't personally pay for it. But there it is. Barbizon is a demon, a fiend. I'm going to add a comment here. and add the comment. And boom, boom, boom. These are my direct quotes. And I have to identify this came from Shakespeare's Insult, a Pragmatic Dictionary. Oh, I think I might even own that at school. Now, normally I also attach the link. The only problem is that link is like 500,000 times too long. So I will just leave it at that. So I understand why you chose Barbicane. However, Nim speech 3, afternoon pistol draw. Yes. So, but Barbicane is a word to reflect I'm no fiend. And you can't control me just by using big words. Because Pistol is proving himself to be far more intelligent than Nim, and basically throwing Nim's ignorance in his face. Okay, but before we get to that question, we still need to identify the two other characters. And we can figure them out from this passage. So, Mr. Croak, this would be the last page of the book. Let me see where it would be in the textbook for those of you using the textbook. Scene 1. So, yeah, page 21, under Re-enter Hostess. So, page 21 in the textbook, under Re-enter the Hostess. Who are the other two characters? I even said the name of one of the other two characters. Lambkins is, no, not Doll Tearsheet. Oh, yes. Yes, you're right. Who is Doll Tearsheet? Doll Tearsheet is the hostess. She is one of the characters from Henry IV, 1 and 2. Okay. Lambkins, I think, is a... Again, where is Lambkins? Lambkins is an endearment. So it's not a character's name. Oh, for Lambkins, we live. So this is a term of endearment. And I'm going to base this on my own. I will look it up later, but I would think. Now, I will also look that up later, but I don't want to spend any more time doing that. So Lambkins is not. Now, we've got the hostess here, and she is Daltier, she is the one who Pistol married. Who is she speaking of? As ever you come of woman, coming quickly to Sir John. Okay, so who is Sir John? Who is Sir John? Give you a hint. His last name starts with the letter F. Falstaff. Indeed. So, why do you think we are being reminded of Falstaff in this scene? I hate when they do that. Foe is supposed to be of. Why are we being reminded of him? What is happening to him? Okay, he is so shaked with of a burning quotidian tertian. Quotidian tertian, ignore my pronunciation, a fever which returns every day. What's wrong with Falstaff? In fact, so we've got this line here. We go back a little bit. We have also what the hostess says here. What does this mean? He'll yield the crow a pudding one of these days. He is dying, and he has to die. I have my own theory regarding this, because Falstaff is one of Shakespeare's most popular characters. He probably suspected people would react violently, or not physically violent. Well, you never know. This was their social media of the day. he knew they would rebel against Falstaff being the one who the king allows to hang. If you recall correctly, later in the play, because I did ask you to read the whole thing, so this is not a spoiler alert, he has Bardolph hanged. So he couldn't hang Falstaff. And the hanging of Bardolph is symbolic, ultimately, of his completely severing himself from that life. A reminder, once again, to the audience that that life is behind him, and he will not play favorites with anybody. Okay, good. Now, we've got one more question. I believe we answered all we need to answer for this one. Oh, what is the argument between Pistol and Nym? How is it settled? What are they arguing over? And I will give you a hint. There are 2 points. One is key, the other brought up as a conciliatory measure. I'm not sure if that's the right. So here we go. The world's best. Are we still on? I got some weird. We're presenting to everybody. Okay, so I'm just going to close that and go in here. My favorite dictionary when push comes to shove, conciliatory. Conciliatory. Good, I spelled it right, which means I can get in here. Where did it go? Damn, my question disappeared. Once again. Oh, I spelt this wrong. Damn it. Even after I went and looked it up. No, Conciliation. Concil, 2 L's, damn it. So, what are they arguing over? Bardolph gives a reason here. I never put line numbers. I will put the line numbers in later. The key thing they are arguing over. And here, who are they fighting over? They are arguing over a woman. Yes. A specific woman. Who? The answer for which is, scrolling back, in the first bolded, underlined. Troth plight, engaged. To whom was Nim engaged? To whom was Nim engaged? And who married her? So we go to this line. This is a pronoun reference. Who did he marry? Who did she marry? She was engaged to Nim, but she married someone else. It should be obvious because of the question you were asked. The argument between she married Pistol. Yes. And so the two men fight. Now, they never reconcile over this, but they do ultimately reconcile over the other point. What's the other point that they argue over? I should have put line numbers in here. My apologies, folks. That will be rectified. Let's do this. Oh, let's just go to dictionary.com. Keep that in my one of my key tabs. Makes life so much simpler. Because this is a good dictionary too. So what is a shilling? A shilling. A cup raw nickel and former monetary unit of the 20th part of a pound equal to a pence. Oh my God. They're arguing over shillings. 25 cents is a shilling. A quarter part of a pound. Actually, a pound is around $2-ish, which means they're arguing over dimes. You owe me 70 cents. I will copy this. And this will be my definition. So, what are they arguing over? It's right here. So, even if you're in the play book, what page would that be on? Page 21, top of page 21 if you're in the book. What's the last point these two men are fighting over? And this is the one that ultimately they come to an agreement about. I even said it when I was defining shillings for you guys. You'll pay me the 8 shillings I won of you at betting? A cup-run nickel coin, a former monetary unit of the United Kingdom, the 20th part of a pound, equal to 12 pence. And a pence is, I believe, a penny. So what are they fighting over? As well as fighting over a woman, they are also arguing over Mr. Hagen. I haven't heard from you yet. Nim says it in this line. So if you look to the screen, I've just highlighted in blue. You'll pay me the 8 shillings I won of you at betting. What is the other point that they are fighting over? As well as fighting over Mistress Quickly, the hostess, who was initially engaged to Nim, but then later married Pistol, they are also fighting over what? And Nim tells us this here. Money. Yes. Pistol lost 8 shillings to Nim in a bet. He won't pay up. He finally agrees to pay up because they're all going off to war and this argument between them has to end. So, why is Bardolph why does he friends? Why does he insist they make friends? Huh, how convenient. Same page. He says it a number of times, but here we have it straight up. Why he insists. Because they are going to war and they have to fight against another enemy, not each other. Very good, Mr. Antonov. Okay, folks, there's only 10 minutes left, and we can look at this answer tomorrow before moving on to the next scene. So, any other questions before we sign off? Alrighty, Mr. Casanyabo, I have added your name to the attendance. So, I will see everybody tomorrow morning, where we will work on discussing question 3 for scene 1. And then we will move on to scene 2 and perhaps scene 3. Hooray! Alrighty. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks. Get your work done. And yes, I'm going to open that up right away. So if you want to stay on, a personal ad. Oh my goodness, good question. You've never been to the personals. That's a good sign, Mr. Andonov. If you have never read a personal, that means you've never written an advertisement asking for a lover. It's the I guess the grinder of the old days. Today, the modern would be, eHarmony is just one big fat personal. How do you spell advertisement? Advert. Let's see if there's an advertisement. Sorry, my computer is so slow. Okay, I will just edit that down to ad. It's like a job application. But for a companion. Looking for someone who loves long walks, hiking, and mountain biking. So you identify, prefer blondes, etc., etc. It might be a good idea to actually consider an ad. Looking at some personal ads. Don't go on to Grindr to find a personal ad, please, because we have to be, it has to be clean. Many personal ads are not clean, but many are. So, example of personal ads without sexual descriptions. 15 amazing personal ads from the 90s. Now, oh good Lord, I am going to immediately pull this off if there is something in there. It's how we used to promote ourselves in the pursuit of relationships. I'm not dysfunctional, you're not dysfunctional, the only girls I've been meeting are very beautiful, very depressed, very bulimic, and very dysfunctional. If you are from a functional family and are attractive, intelligent, well-read, focused, sarcastic, and not taking Prozac, let's get together and celebrate. I'm Jewish, 35, have long hair and unconventional good looks, have owned my own business for the last 10 years, and I'm not in the least bit sarcastic. Letter and a photo a must. So, that is a great example. I will share that example and identify where it comes from. I have no idea what the 2526 means, so I'm going to ignore it. And this is from the cut. Okay, so I will add the all that later. Does that answer your question about personal ad. That's just one example. I'll give you the link so that I'm afraid to give you the link. The reason I'm afraid to give you the link is that some personal ads are not appropriate, but I still have to properly cite my source. So now I'm in a conundrum. All right, it does, but should the ad be based? Yes. So things that go in the ad would, have to reflect the character, the circumstances he's been through. Perfect. Any other questions, people? All right, that ends today's lesson. So I'm going to stop recording now, even though I'm in the middle of creating a bibliography. Check the bibliography itself out on Google Classroom. You are going to have to cite every single source you use or reference in some way, shape, or form when you get to college or university. You need to do that. It's critical. Alrighty, see everybody tomorrow.